Hey, baby, I hear those blues a calling. It's time for the Frazier on Frazier podcast. Hello, it's Adam Frazier, your host, and with me is Wes Corwin.
Yeah, it's me, Wes Corwin. You tried to get me off balance with a very quick intro, but I was ready. I know my own name. Can't pretend I don't.
So yeah, you're always on your toes.
Uh huh.
So today we're talking about Frasier season 2, episode 11, Seat of Power.
Seat of power.
And this is I said, I think last time we on the last episode we recorded, I said it was about how Martin was upset that or Martin challenges Fraser and Niles to like fix a toilet
Yeah.
instead of calling for a plumber.
Right.
But that's not really what the episode's about. It's this is the bully episode
This
is how
is
I remember it.
kind of an episode tangential. It's definitely we have had some offshoot jokes where Frasier and Niles talk about having a rough time in middle school, high school, elementary school. Somebody like someone will be like, "Hey, do you know anything about this?" And Frasier will be like, "Yeah, I learned about it in school, in between getting beaten all the time." And ha 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 ha. And this is the first time it's sort of confronted because the person that comes to repair Frasier's toilet when it is broken is somebody that tormented Niles, and it comes out that not the older brother of the boy tormented Frasier, and that resolves the age gap between Niles and Frasier. There's a whole family that has been tormenting the old Crane boys back in their adolescence.
Right. So and it's I mean, views on bullying has changed. It's not really uh it, bullying is pretty frowned upon. I mean, it was frowned upon back then too, but like you could still play it for jokes sometimes, like with this episode.
For goofs and giggles. Yep.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. Starting off, we have Frasier doing his little radio show, and he's talking to Elliot,
Elliot,
who is
he has a problem. He's a salesman. Frasier immediately cuts him off and is like, "How?" Elliot has a very. First of all, do we reveal it now or do
he
we?
has a very he has a very Macaulay Culkin sounding
Right.
voice.
He sounds like he's got the voice of somebody who's home alone. Who he sounds like he's got to frequently trying to get even with dad. Is what this guy sound. He sounds much like a page master.
The
You
kind
might
of
say.
voice that yeah, I was gonna say Page Master. You beat me to
I'm
it.
sorry. I didn't mean to. You know.
I see. I don't think I've ever watched Home Alone all the way through. To
Uh,
be, as crazy as that may sound,
yeah.
I was more of a Richie Rich Page Master kid
Sure.
growing up.
Back in my elementary school, we didn't have a bullying problem, but there were street gangs, and one of them were kids that were more into Home Alone, and one that were more into Page Master, and we would fight all the time. We all loved Macaulay Culkin. That's where we saw
The
eye.
Page Master kids be throwing like books.
Yeah, they would throw books. They would huck books as hard as they could, which kind of defeated the message of Page Master that you should respect literature. But that's neither here nor there. Oh. Anyway.
So it's Macaulay Culkin who's our celebrity caller.
Mhm.
In case that wasn't clear, and he's pulling a prank.
Pull-
Just old jape on Dr. Frazier
Yeah.
or Dr. Crane.
Old Doctor Fraser Crane. Hmm.
He's pretending to be a salesman who's having a rough time because everyone makes fun of him because he has a very young sounding voice. Frazier,
He brings up that he was born in New Providence as if it's like a regional dialect to have a very young sounding voice.
well, yeah, because people from New Providence they have. Wait, he was. Wait, does he say that? I don't think he says that in the episode, does he?
Okay, hold on. Let's put some interstitial music. Because I want to know the answer to this. We're looking at the transcript. Hang on. I'm clicking on the. Sorry. Have you seen that ad where the cats say meow for Meow Mix on Hulu?
No.
I had to watch it 3 times when I was watching this episode of Frasier.
That's why you spring for the expensive Hulu, Wes,
You,
where you don't have to watch
I,
ads.
I forget we have different tax brackets, you and I. So I subject myself to the added
We
Hulu.
don't have different tax brackets.
No, you're right. I save $3 a month by letting Hulu supply me with ads. Where? Okay,
I'm
I know.
up here sitting in my ivory tower with
with
my
your
ad-free Hulu.
with your wealth and your ad. Nobody makes you watch ads. Let's see. If I pause this, what on earth? Okay, hold on. I got it. Can I click on? I'm on the desktop, Frasier, and it's something that. Okay, I go to details. I'm figuring
This
this
is
out.
so fun to hear.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to. I'm
This is so fun for people at home to
nobody
listen to.
nobody hears this. This all goes in the can. This all goes outside of the episode. Cut it.
Oh no, I'm putting this in.
Don't put a second of this
No, I'm
in
putting it in.
as I watch this advertisement about children painting. What could this even be about? He's grilling. They're Oh, it's Nebraska Furniture Mart whole home sale. Up to
Oh,
45%
for
off. This podcast is brought to you by the Nebraska Home Furniture. How long can this? Okay, so I'm gonna click ahead. Okay, I'm watching.
Uh-huh.
43. Let's be truthful.
Wes is gonna get to the bottom of
I'm
this.
solving this mystery. Yeah, yesterday. Radio. You know what they're doing. Anyway, for people with real problems. Oh, what is going on with the Okay, he never says I was born in New Providence. He says I was going to say uh he said the line is I'm 43 and I was going to say I have a very young sounding voice that people make fun of all the time. Once again, the transcript is delivered. You know what? We're going to stop thanking the KLC 780 people because at this point they're fucking with us. At this point they're actively trying to throw us off. I was like, how did I not notice that? That's a funny additional line. We're getting goofed on here. Ridiculous. The KACL
They're
780,
listening to this podcast.
and they're throwing us off. They've become our Macaulay Culkin, where they're trying to throw us off our game for goofs to make so their friends are amused when they listen back, and they're like, he thought the line was I was born in New Providence. Fucking ridiculous.
They're pranking us.
They're
Oh,
Eric
so-
Andre. We're getting Jamie Kennedy X'd.
So Frasier hangs up on Elliot
Uh-huh.
because he got goofed on.
Got goofed.
And the show ends because Frasier is ashamed that he was pranked by a small child.
He ends it at the 12-minute mark. There are 12 minutes in the episode. He had another 48 to fill, but he was calling it a night. He had to get off after minute 12.
And so he goes into Roz's booth.
Mhm.
Roz asks Frasier if he can answer a question honestly,
Honestly,
which Frasier he immediately says, "You don't look fat in that dress."
right.
Which makes Roz very self-conscious because why would you say that? That's not what I was going to
Why
ask.
did you ever? And Fraser's like, well, anytime a woman wants honesty, that's usually the question they're going to ask. And Roz is like, I'm not that insecure. And then Fraser's like, what was your question? And Roz is asked, would you say the back of my head is unattractive? Apparently, Roz has been going to Seahawks games, and there's this cute guy
Right.
that she must be checking. She's not watching the game because she's looking at this guy's face and being like, "Oh, he's hot," but apparently not when he looks at her. Like they don't meet eyes because apparently he has only seen the back of her head, and she thinks because he hasn't asked her out, she must have an ugly back half of the head where you're looking at it and it's she's got a growth like like an ugly like a two-faced thing, but front to back instead of half and half is what Roz is afraid she has going on.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah, no, she has another face growing out of the back of her head.
Like a Professor Quirrell Voldemort thing. She's got two eyes back here, and
right.
She's a Horcrux for Voldemort. So she's like, why aren't Ben asking me out? But she's got Voldemort on the back of her head back here.
The entire time she's on a date, the back of her head's going, "Bring me the boy."
Bring me the boy. And it's like, why can't I? Why don't I? Why doesn't anyone want to go on a second date with me? As she swats the back of her head. You know how that goes.
But Frazier points out, Roz, it could be any number of reasons why he wouldn't ask you out. He could be married, he could be gay. Uh, so he that makes Roz feel better. Little does she know the real reason the guy won't ask her out is because it's actually Macaulay Culkin in disguised as an adult,
Right. It's
with like a fake mustache,
right. It's a
with like a
situation. Macaulay Culkin and Kieran Culkin in the '90s were stacked on top of each other's shoulders in a trench coat, asking out. They were at Seahawks games. You know how it goes. They were, yeah. It's a situation where it's like, could you get me a box of pretzels? I'll get you back later with my adult money. And as he like falls backwards and forwards in his chair, you know how the bit goes. The Little Rascals and stuff.
so that scene ends.
Yeah.
That's just there because I'm sure the actress who plays Roz has a contract saying she
She
has to appear in every episode.
contractually has to be in every single episode. None of this bit, I think, pays off in any way into the rest of the episode.
So we just go straight to Frasier at home. He's sitting at the table eating some scones,
Hmm.
which don't look like scones to me. They look like cinnamon rolls or something,
Right.
but they call them scones.
Holmes.
And Eddie is sitting across the table from Frasier. He's obviously begging Frasier for some of. He's doing a blep, where he's got his tongue kind of sticking out. Yeah, no, Wes, you don't have to demonstrate. I know what.
No one can see the physical bit at the. I feel like it's important to show you at least, Adam, so you remember what it looks like when a dog sticks their tongue out. How else are you going to recall
Yeah,
it for
but
the audio? Look, this is an audio medium, Adam, and so I'm watching you, and I'm thinking he's not selling it right. I'll remind him what it looks like when a dog sticks their tongue out, and here you are calling me out for try. I'm trying to be the John Stockton to your Carl. I'm trying to pass you the ball so you can put it in the hoop. I'm trying to make sure you have all the tools you need to succeed.
so Frasier Frasier's ignoring Eddie,
Ignoring him.
or pretending to.
Right.
Yeah, and Eddie, of course, doesn't let up, and eventually Frasier gives him the scone, and he goes over. He takes it, runs over to the couch, and eats it
Uh huh.
on the couch. And Martin's like, "Ah, I got you again, huh?
Yep. And then
Never begs for me."
Fraser's like, maybe he doesn't like what you're eating. And Marty's like, he's not big. I saw him eat a beetle, and the crowd laughs. I guess. I don't know. There were some hits in this episode. I thought that was a weird one, but I feel like there are funnier things a dog could eat. But anyway.
Daphne comes in.
Hmm.
She's going to take Eddie for a walk for I guess the second time
The
today.
third time
Uh,
that
be,
day because Daphne's already walked him twice, and
right.
there's a gentleman Martin asks, does he got to go again? And Daphne's like, I do, because she pisses outside apparently. And then she's like, no, I just made it sound like I piss outside. I don't do that. Hi, there's a very nice gentleman.
I definitely don't piss
I'm
outside.
not peeing outside. That's not a thing that we do in Britain. You would know, Americans. We don't secretly pee outside and not tell you about it. It's not weird for you to pee indoors. This hasn't been a 240-year prank on your country where we pretended to lose a war against you and we chuckle to the other European countries. Look at them, they pee indoors like fucking idiots. Uh, Daphne. Daphne, there's a cute guy who's playing frisbee with his Labrador, and she is taking Eddie for a bunch of walks because she wants to take a good look at this guy who plays frisbee with his Labrador. And
So the
I guess when you say it out loud, that's weird.
yeah, she just leaves. So it is. So we've had two jokes with our two main female characters of this show, and they're both about how they're trying to attract men,
They're trying to
which doesn't paint a great view
right.
of our only our two main female
Our
characters.
two, and I believe, only our only female characters this episode. Both of them are trolling for men very indirectly, very in a sort of craven, cowardly. Like, I know, I'll buy season tickets to the Seattle Seahawks, and then I'll just hope that someone looking at the back of my head asks me out. Oh, they haven't. I must have an ugly back of the head. And then Daphne is just forcing this dog outside at all times, whether or not he has to go, just so she can look at a man, just so she can eyeball. It's odd. It's a little odd. The narrative we're painting here.
That's doesn't not a great look on Frasier, but we'll move on.
We'll move on.
We'll move
We'll
on.
move on.
Uh, Martin asks Frasier, "Hey, what are you going to do about that toilet that's in that keeps it keeps shooting water up at me while I'm sitting on it." He's like, "Dad, that's a bidet." Um, no, no, he doesn't say that.
That's a good joke. That's a good one.
I mean, that'd be funny, but no, it's making some noise and it's
Right.
keeping Martin up all night because he can't
Yeah.
sleep because of the
Mar-
noise from the toilet.
Martin is like, "Hey, could you fix that crazy toilet of ours? It's running all the time. The noise is driving me crazy." And then Fraser looks at what Martin's pointing at, and he's like, "Dad, that's a trash compactor. Is that what you've been? You've lived here for years. Is that what you thought the toilet was?" Anyway, these are all bits, and these are all introducing the central concept of the show. This episode, but also more largely the show, that Martin is a man's man, and Frasier is a more modern, traditional. He appreciates the finer things, and this is the frequent spot they butt heads. Is that Martin is like, "You should fix your own toilet," and Frasier's like, "That's what a plumber
Right.
is for," and they sort of disagree that way. And Martin just has enough comments to chip Frasier and Niles into, well, moreover, Frasier feeling a little bit guilty about not knowing how to repair his own toilet, and subsequently they will try in the next scene.
Yeah, so Martin is like, oh, Fraser's like, "Oh, I'll call a plumber," and Martin's like, "Oh, what do you mean call a plumber? You got two hands, fix it yourself."
Fix it.
And then Fraser's like, "Dad, I'm a doctor, not some sort of toilet engineer."
I'm not a toilet special. I don't perform surgery on toilets. I'm a doctor. To which
a-
that's actually the setup is I have more important things to do, and then Niles rolls in and reveals that the more important thing they have to do is they're going to a spa and they're going to get a salt glow with their Swedish massage. And then Martin mocks them and says, "Forget about a
Martin
plumber. I'll do it."
overhears this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And says, "My manicure is canceled on me," and then does like a foofy impression because his sons are women. Is what the implication is there.
And uh, Fraser or Martin makes some comments like, "Oh, I bet you don't even have any tools
Hmm.
to fix the toilet." And Fraser's like, "Oh, well, no, joke's on you. I got this little pocket. I got this this pocket Swiss Army knife."
Hmm.
Um, and Fraser and Niles like. Fraser like or Niles goes over to Fraser and he's looking and he's like, "Oh, that's really nice. Is that turquoise inlay?" And they talks about all the colors that it comes in. It comes in onyx. And it's like, "Oh, onyx is so showy," and
Which is
it's
funny.
fun to imagine. It's fun to imagine that they're talking about Onyx the Pokemon. That's just me.
Yeah, I love Onyx is a stone that. I like that they disagree about the color that Fraser didn't opt for because Niles like, "Is that turquoise?" And Fraser just brings up it also comes up in ebony and onyx, like they're advertising the toolkit. And then Niles says Onyx is so showy, and then Fraser's like, "Oh, I don't think so. I love Onyx. Onyx is," and it's so. It's not about anything. They're just talking about a color that isn't Fraser's
It's just
tool set.
it's further illustrating the point that these aren't men. These aren't blue collar men.
No.
These are white collar men.
These are
Um,
not the kind of men that'll fix their own toilet. Well, they'll show you. Uh, But they one thing to know. No,
We'll show you, Dad.
we'll prove you wrong, Father. And they're
We'll we'll
we'll borrow some
we'll
tools and
we'll have that toilet ready for the dance by the end of the week.
we'll take that toilet to the dance so
Because
fast
like they
with 2 dates, and it'll have to switch between the 2 dates in a wacky sitcom circumstance. You know how it goes.
so so Fraser and Niles decide they're going to attempt to fix the toilet by themselves,
Right.
because they want to show their dad that they're made of tougher stuff than he thinks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we cut to, and I guess this is the first time we've seen Fraser's bathroom.
Yes, that's for sure.
Very big, very elegant bathroom. Um, Fraser and Niles, they're huddled around the toilet. Niles is on the phone talking with Maris, and he's telling her that he's going to be late, and they're because he's fixing a toilet over at Fraser's, and Maris is getting very hot and bothered with all this fixing toilet talk.
And Niles is declaring to Maris that he's not going to be home for a few hours because they're starting to do home repair, and then he affirms he's working with his hands, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm a little sweat. I've worked up a bit of a sweat. I suppose I could take my shirt off." And it is revealed that Maris is getting a little aroused at the fact that Niles is doing manual labor, a thing that he doesn't frequently do. And in my opinion, my favorite line delivery of the episode is Niles turns to the phone and says, "Maris, I'm holding some sort of wrench," which is just fantastic. I really,
That's very
I
good.
can't
No, I like
overstate
that.
how much I love David Hyde Pierce with a lot of lines. And that just another good one is is him attempting to play the sort of fantasy role play into it. He doesn't know the kind of wrench he has, but he's going to commit to holding a wrench. And then, Frazier takes the phone,
Um,
and Maris is.
Fraser takes the phone.
Frazier takes the
Yeah.
phone and is like, "Maris, Niles is busy. No, never mind what I'm wearing," and then hangs up. And it is an interesting glimpse. We've covered the fact that Niles pursues Daphne, and I may have been mischaracterizing Niles as somebody who's willing to cheat on his wife. It's very possible they have a weird is unfair, but they have like an open thing where maybe Niles can fuck a British woman and maybe Maris can fuck her husband's brother. I don't know how it goes,
Well,
but they're just very flirtatious people, perhaps. Because
perhaps,
she
but I
just
mean,
wants to know what
to be
Frazier is wearing while they do manual labor.
the logic of the show is Niles wouldn't cheat on Maris.
Right.
He may be tempted to, but he ultimately, at the end of the day, doesn't do anything with Daphne, even though he may want to.
Hmm.
And we'll see how that plays out. I mean, that could change over the course of, the 11 seasons of the show.
We got a
So
lot of
just
episodes. Got a lot of episodes left.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot could happen.
Mm.
So
Hmm.
so stay tuned. Um, Frasier's talking about Amish barn raising,
Hmm.
because he's getting worked up too. He's invigorated by the fact that he's working with his hands and they're fixing a toilet.
Hmm.
And he's talking about the Amish barn raising and how it
Right.
reminds him of that. At which point they think they fixed the toilet. They flush it and it starts overflowing.
It starts
Uh,
overflowing. It's pretty. Yeah, they panic.
and
Niles gets on top of the bathtub. Frazier retreats a little bit, and they're both freaking out because the toilet is overflowing.
yes, and Niles says, "Where are your Amish friends now?"
Yep.
So we move on to our next scene. Frasier and Niles are in Frasier's living room now. Uh, Niles apparently just got off. Well, yeah, they got off the phone with the plumber. The plumber's been called,
Hmm.
and the wine is properly chilled. So they're gonna just relax and let them do the work.
Hmm.
Um, and they go on about how uh, at the end of the day, uh, you know,
They messed with the natural order by trying to fix the
Right.
toilet, and now order has been restored. We've contributed in the way we're supposed to the economy because we hired a plumber, and the plumber can now go buy a Dolly Parton album, and Miss Parton can then use that money to finance a tour, which will of course come to Seattle, and then the tour promoter who runs the tour, the promoter that works at the Seattle leg of the tour, will make enough money to send his cross-dressing teenage son for us. So the money travels all the way around. This is called velocity of money, and it's only a little bit homophobic, as is the theme in the first part of the episode. We also
Yeah, yeah.
covered that.
The cross
Yeah,
send his cross-dressing teenage son to us for $150 an
marriage
hour
therapy.
therapy,
Yeah.
which I'll say, devil's advocate. It's not. We don't know that he's going to therapy for cross-dressing.
No, that could just be a side thing.
Totally something unrelated to
It
that.
could be
Yeah.
he won't stop
Um,
killing animals. Also, I'm not ashamed of this part at all. He's crossed it. Look, he's going to show up in full ball gown. You don't have to work on that. Just stop him from murdering squirrels around the neighborhood. That's the part that bothers me. But I accept him as he is, except for
right.
the murder part. You know,
Right. This hypothetical tour promoter.
the hypothetical Seattle tour promoter.
So.
Yeah.
The doorbell rings. It's the plumber. And it's none other than John C. McGinley.
John C. McGinley,
Who
Dr. Cox from Scrubs, Office Space, Highlander
Yeah.
2, The Quickening, The Shadow, The White Shadow from Boondocks. I really like this guy. I think he's very fun.
I like him too. I watched a ton of Scrubs when I was younger, and I loved him as Dr. Cox. And it's fun seeing him in this. He looks a lot younger. But that's how time works.
That is, in fact,
Um,
how time works.
and this kind of made me think. If we had to cast another person as Bulldog, I think John C. McGinley would do a great job.
He would be tone perfect. He would be great as, especially if he. I feel like the interesting thing about this performance is John C. McGinley hasn't completely, and it's a thing that would eventually kind of get him typecast into a very specific role. But he'll eventually find his voice and become iconic in these parts like Office Space and Dr. Cox, where like you think of him in these very specific. He doesn't show off a lot of the mannerisms that he would eventually develop. But if he had those mannerisms, he should play Bulldog. He's absolutely fantastic.
He does do the Dr. Cox whistle
Yeah.
at one point in the episode.
That is pretty. He does do that.
Yeah, when he's trying to get when he tries to get Niles' attention. So John C. McGinley comes in. He's the plumber. He's there to fix the toilet. Walks right into Frazier's bathroom to fix the toilet. And Niles, we can see, he's becoming overcome with uh, rage. He's spiraling into what many could consider a turbulent rage. So, and it's all because apparently this guy, this plumber, is Danny Kriesel, none
Danny
other than
Kriesel.
Kriesel the Weasel.
25 years ago, Niles' personal tormentor. He bullied him through his entire childhood from ages 2 to 19. Just kept transferring to schools Niles went to. Is what a rampant force Kriesel the Weasel was. And his signature trademark move, the swirly, just a perpetual nightmare, a black stain on the otherwise sunshiny existence that was Niles Crane's childhood.
Right, and now here he is, an adult in Frazier's apartment fixing his toilet, which is a little ironic. But of course, this gets Niles really worked up because he hasn't really worked through the trauma
No.
of his childhood bullying.
It is
and
sort of ironic, given how both the Crane boys have chosen psychiatry as their. It's very clear in this episode how much of their pain is completely unresolved and so close to the surface at all times. Because
Right.
running into these people from their past, Frazier brings up the fact that Niles doesn't need to remind him because Danny's older brother Billy would bully Frazier. Both the Creasels tormented both the Crane boys, and when they talk about it, not only is it a real issue that still angers them, but Niles goes into full Vietnam PTSD flashback as he talks about the chanting they used to do. He starts to descend over the couch as his head drops down a toilet in his mind. As he gives himself a swirly, recreating his own unresolved trauma.
Right.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, they're so both Fraser and Niles are indeed kind of messed up, despite the fact that they're healthcare professionals. But that's what makes it ironic.
That is the irony. Yeah.
And that's a humor. That yeah, irony. It's a humor word.
Kid,
It's a
Kids, we have a lot
it's a thing you.
hang on, you can't see this on the podcast, but Adam is going to see me flip my chair around. Kids, we have a lot of fun here. We have a lot of fun on this podcast, but
I can see it. He's sitting in a chair backwards.
but this
He's got a baseball cap, which is also turned backwards.
turning it back. Kids, we've had a lot of fun here, but this this podcast.
He's wearing a don't. He's wearing a shirt that says "Don't smoke, don't do drugs,
Don't do it, kids. This podcast is objectively about humor, and if you pick up one thing, it's that if you take somebody's traditional values and then flip them, that's irony, and that's comedy. And now I'm gonna flip my chair back because that's the lesson I want to impart on the kids. All right, there we go. Did it.
That looked very uncomfortable, Wes.
It was. This was the worst. I shouldn't have tried to flip around a beanbag chair, Adam. I don't know how. I think I almost broke both my arms. It's a goofy. It's not.
So,
Yeah. Anyway, one thing that is fun and a fun glimpse.
yeah.
The last thing I want to say in this specific scene, is Niles tells Frazier tells Niles, the best vengeance, the best revenge. You were an awkward teenager, and now you're a psychiatrist, and he fixes toilets. You won the war. The best strategy by which to living well is the best revenge. And now it's like, that's a great phrase. You just don't see it come up in the opera. You don't see Ludwig, maddened by the poisoning of his entire family, wreaks vengeance in the third act by living well. And then not.
Yeah,
Frazier's like, nah.
I really like that line.
Yeah, it's goofy because over dramatized opera is how people think of these sorts of things. But it's a good point. You should just live your best life. But obviously, Niles isn't thinking about how to win spiritually. He wants to exact a very specific vengeance upon Danny Kreisel the Weasel.
So
we move
so
in.
he does go. He goes into the bathroom.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Niles goes into the bathroom where Danny John C. McGinley is working on the toilet.
Right.
They strike up a conversation. Niles is trying to kind of rub his success in John C. McGinley's face. He mentions about how how he has all this money and he drinks fine wine and he drives a Mercedes. And Danny and John C. McGinley's like, oh yeah, that's a nice car. I had the same one, but I had to upgrade to the S class. And then Niles is like, you have the big Mercedes?
You got the big one? Oh, I just got the little one. And then he's like, yeah. And then Danny brings up the fact that his son, it comes up organically because his 13-year-old has already wants his car. He wants to inherit the car. But apparently got in a fight in school the other day, and Niles is like, "Oh, really?" And Danny has got his head in the toilet to work on it, and Niles is looking to stuff his head in there. But just at the last moment,
Right.
Danny looks up, and then Niles reels back, and he's got his hands close. And Danny reveals that some guy on the football team tried to pick on him and steal his lunch money. And then Niles says there's nothing like a bully, and tries to stomp. He tries to curb stomp, a la American History X, Danny's head right into the toilet. But then he grabs his foot and like stretches it because Danny leans up again and says, "I'd rather be a bully than one of those wussy kids that get picked on." You know, the kind I'm talking about, kids who are too gutless to fight back. And Niall says, "You admire someone who fights back, do you?" And I feel like the transcript might. I feel like this might be the bit where he tries to stomp him in the head, and before he uses his hands, and eventually. Danny starts saying like, "Well, if you don't fight back, you're a wuss and you're a wimp." And then Niles tries to charge him and lunge at him, and then Frazier pulls him out of the room completely. That's how that goes.
Right.
Yeah, clearly a simmering
Well,
rage.
right, and we see Niles outside on the balcony in Fraser's living room. He's waving his arms wildly in the air like he's fighting someone.
Right.
And Daphne sees it, is like, oh, what's Dr. Crane doing? And Fraser's like, oh, he's a little frustrated, so I let him go out and take the anger out of my
On
ficus.
his ficus.
Yeah, and then he opens the door and lets Niles back in. And Niles is like, "Good lord, there's a bee out there the size of a woodfinch." So all of his failing was because of a bee. When he
Daphne
thought it
was
was
like, "He looks like a man. He looks like a man possessed out there." But it turns out he was just trying to flail at a bee, trying to get it to go away.
little did he know that bee was actually Macaulay Culkin in disguise.
Oh man! And then he went on to sting a child to death in My Girl. That's how that went. It comes all the way around.
So, so Niles wants to, like, go in there. He wants to show Danny Kriesel, what for. And Fraser's like, no, you're an adult where you've got to be better than that. You've got to talk through these issues rather than just let your instincts take over. Um, and uh, Niles sees the logic in this argument, and he's like, okay, I'll try to talk out my problems with Danny. So Fraser takes him back into the bathroom. Um, there is Danny with another person working on the toilet. Uh, Niles goes up to Danny. He's like, I want to take you back to the 1970s.
Just a ridiculous line delivery. Yeah.
Um, you bullied me as a child at John Adams Junior High School,
You
and
took it upon yourself to terrorize me just because I was different than you, just because I have powers and abilities you'll never understand. I could bend, I could bend spoons back then with my mind. And John C. McGinley's like, "Oh, okay." And so Niles invites him to the living room to chat for a bit to come to some understanding. And Danny's like, "Yeah, whatever. Like, I'm still on the clock, so well, however you want to spend my time, it's your money." And then he says, "I'll be right back, Billy." And it is revealed that the other person working on the toilet is Frasier's tormentor, Billy Kriesel, Kriesel the Diseasel. Because you can't, not the same name. You can't have two Kriesel the Weasel. So the other one wasn't as good, but it was the Diseasel because he was a bigger man and he had the cold when he would bully people. He frequently had a sneezy episode. Anyway,
Kriesel the Dweezil
Kriesel,
Zappa.
Kriesel the Diesel.
That was the only other. um. So yeah. Frasier is left in the
In the
bathroom
bathroom.
with Billy,
Yep.
the older brother of Danny, who is played by Mike Starr, I believe is his name.
Let's take a look at the
Yeah,
bottom.
Mike Starr.
Old Mike.
Uh,
What do we know Mike Starr from, Adam?
he's been in a lot of stuff. He was in Ed Wood. He was in Dumb and Dumber. He was in Uncle Buck. He was in an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine where he played a holographic gangster. So
Oh,
he's known for kind of tough guy roles.
tough guy. He's one of them. One of them. One of them.
Frasier and Billy get to talking, and Billy's like, "Oh, I think that brother of yours is making a big deal out of nothing." And Frasier's like, "Oh, is that so, Billy?" Um, and Billy's like, "Yeah, kids pick on each other. It's all part of growing up. They stuff each other in lockers. They make them wear field hockey uniforms, or women's field hockey uniforms. It's all good fun." And these are, of course, all things that he did to Frasier, and
Right.
Frasier is just barely holding it together.
And Fraser
Um,
attempts the same approach that Niles did. He's like, Billy, I would like to take you back in time. And Billy stands up and says, No, let me take you back. Trying to. Oh, at first he's like, You, my customer, my plumbing client, you're a big guy. You were probably a bully like me. And Fraser tries to take this guy back and like relate to him. And Billy's instead is trying to like elbow, nudge, nudge, like, remember all the fun people like us would have bullying people. I remember I shoved a nerd into a locker and he was wearing a girl's field hockey uniform. And Fraser seethes from where he stands because he's talking very specifically about Fraser. I don't actually know. Does a
and
girl's
and
field
and we
hockey?
we
Oh,
get to we
okay, okay. Sorry, I googled girls'
I
field
mean, I don't
hockey
know what a
uniform.
girls' field hockey uniform
It's kind of like a you. It's a little bit like
is. It
a.
embarrassing?
Let me send you a picture. It's not. I mean, I think in high school everything's embarrassing, so I'm not going to
Well, you have to
minimize.
describe it, Wes. This is
Okay,
an audio podcast.
but I'm going to send you a picture, and then you can correct me if I'm off base. It looks like a tank top, and then a shorter skirt on the bottom. And I don't know if he would have made Frazier wear like the cleats with the shin protector socks like a soccer player, but that's the full outfit. It's a tank top and a short skirt and cleats with shin protectors. So
This is what he made Frasier wear when he stuffed him into the locker.
conceivable.
We cut to right. So we cut to the living room where Niles and Danny are talking.
Hmm.
Niles is talking about, uh, well, Danny's like, "Oh, I don't remember you,"
All right.
and Niles is like, "Oh, well, remember you made me wear a jockstrap like a tiara." And he's like, "Oh yeah, you're that kid who carried his gym shorts in an attaché case."
Right.
And
And
Niles like, "It
it was
was
a
a
valise.
valise."
And then Danny's like, I remember you, boy. Those were crazy. And he's like, you ever see any of the old gang? He remembers Niles as like one of the guys. And instead, Niles is like, you're missing the point. You tormented me for years. And Danny's like, look, I can't defend everything I did in junior high, but look, when you show up at school wearing a tweed blazer with elbow patches and carrying a valise, the guilt here is 50-50. Like, to Danny's credit, he's willing to take half the blame, but the other half of the blame is Niles. Look at what you're wearing, he says. This sort of mentality would not age well, but the idea that Niles is a big nerd who dressed a certain way, he was asking for it, essentially.
I want to I want to know what gang Niles was in. Like John C. McGinley's like, "Hey, do you ever see any of the old gang? Do you ever see Jaws or Boomer or Wheels or Lingo? These are all members of the Burger King Kids Club, by the way. I
you,
think
you ever see VR, the kids?
Kidvid."
You ever see Kid Vid? Yeah, all the Burger King Kids Club kids.
um, so, Danny, so we cut back, or no, we cut back to Billy and Frasier,
Hmm.
and Billy's talking about how he would put a fire extinguisher down Frasier's pants, and they called it, and he's like, "Oh, what did we call it?" And Frasier's like,
A
"It was a jetpack."
jetpack.
Yes.
And
Um,
And Billy says, "Oh man, you remember them all," because Billy still thinks he and Frazier are relating because they would do they pulled from the similar prank book instead of Frazier having a deep mental catalog of all of Billy's techniques as a child tormentor. So that just kind of we're slow cooking the Billy Frazier situation as we can continue to cut back to Niles and Danny. Uh, and
and the Niles and Danny situation is getting like increasingly like I mean, Niles is making
He
progress
is.
with Danny. By the end of it, he's like on the couch, like he's in therapy.
And they do it. They
Uh,
do it very well with the physical acting. In the first bit, you see Niles and Danny standing facing each other, and then Niles and Danny move to sitting on the couch. And by the third bit, in a very traditional sense, Danny is lying on the couch like a patient, and here we are. We've gotten to the point where Niles has gotten Danny right where he wants him.
right, and Danny's like, kind of breaks down. He's like, "Oh yeah, it was because I just wanted my father's approval. That's why I bullied you, Niles." And he's had a breakthrough. So
So
so Danny thanks Niles, and Niles is like, "Oh, I can't take all the credit. You have to thank my brother too, because he told me that if any person can work anything out as long as we approach it in a calm, rational manner." Cue Frasier running out of the hallway out of the apartment, screaming, "Run, Niles! The beast is loose!" And we see him being followed by Billy, who his head has been obviously submerged in a
in a toilet.
toilet.
And it's sort of now this is almost a perfect bit, if I may. This is all because we set up that Niles and Danny's signature move was the swirly, and then Frazier gets Billy back and doesn't adhere to his own standard where he's like it's important to be the bigger person, and then Frazier does what Niles would have done, and Niles followed Frazier's advice. It's almost perfect. There's one missing component is that Frazier doesn't get Billy back by using Billy's signature move against him. The perfect episode would end with Frasier pushing
With
Billy
him,
into a closet while he's wearing a girl's field hockey uniform, and then the entire thing comes around full circle. That would be it. But
you're
but
he
I
just holds him at gunpoint, like, "Here, put this
put
girl's
this on.
field hockey uniform
I've
on."
saved it for years. It's the exact one you made, and then it takes on a whole like Saw component where suddenly we
I've
go from
transported the locker from our old junior high school, and I've installed it in the bathroom.
now get in there, and he's got him. Yeah, no,
Um,
what a nightmare, but also what a
and stay there until the janitor gets you out.
yeah, I feel like that would be an ending, but again, this is also good. This is also fun.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you got to communicate quickly what happened between him and Billy, and we see Billy. His head's cover is very wet. He's got water all over his clothes, so it's clear. We know just looking at him. Yes,
Right,
he got a swirly.
right. But
We
wouldn't it
cut
be
to
better if Mike Starr was dressed in a full girls' field hockey uniform? Wouldn't that be wouldn't that be something?
that would. It would be great if he came out, if he ran out of the bathroom wearing the girls' field hockey uniform with no explanation
No
as to how
explanation
he got into it.
whatsoever. That would be something.
So,
Now that would be a goof.
um, it would. So we cut to later. Martin is now fixing the toilet because presumably the Kriesel brothers, the Kriesel Boy Plumbing Company, didn't fix it before Frazier dunked Billy's head into a toilet. So and it's revealed that Frazier had to pay him off
Right.
so he
Had to
wouldn't be.
had to write him a check very quickly for his service, so as not to anger this man any further.
Yeah.
Martin makes a fun comment like about how low flow toilets don't have the same swirly velocity as the old ones, sort of implying Martin is very familiar with swirlies. We don't have any concrete knowledge whether he was giving them or receiving them, but he's familiar. He's familiar with the old swirly.
Maybe we're gonna find out later that the man who shot Martin was actually the kid that Martin swirled in junior high school.
I think that I'm excited to find that out. I'm excited to. I'm
You
excited
gave me a swirly when we were kids. I'm gonna shoot you in the leg.
officer, and then shoots him. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I feel like it's very conceivable that Father Creasel, the dad that John C. McGinley spent his entire life trying to impress, had this inferiority complex because Martin gave him a swirly, so bullied his sons until they bullied the Crane Boys, and decided my vengeance is not yet complete, and then shot Martin in the hip. And that's I think that's the origin story.
Hire us, Frasier reboot writers. We're free.
Frasier,
We can
if
we'll
we are available and we are easy to contact. We have nothing going on right now. If you are looking for
we
some great, we have a very deep mythos knowledge of everything you've done.
So yeah, that pretty much ends the episode. Oh well, we have a joke about Eddie drinking out of the toilet, and Martin says, "Oh no, Eddie, don't drink out of that. Some guy just had his head in there." And then he does that Martin laugh where he bends his head backwards and he
Right.
just starts going ah.
And then this doesn't really happen, but you see the screen circle in on Martin's face, and it's like, yep, that's what it's all about. As as it encompasses that old Looney Tunes, it comes around his face, and then he winks into the camera, and then that's it.
Yep, that's the episode.
That's
So it was pretty good. I think this is a very funny episode. I really enjoyed it, and I like I said, I like seeing John C. McGinley
John C.
in
McGinley,
Frasier.
great special guest star. Pretty solid guest. Sometimes they have odd offshoot characters that it feels like your guests. Especially the episodes we've seen before. Sometimes you just need someone to fill a part. With the exception of the outstanding radio president, who of course was immediately fired and we haven't seen and may never see again. It's fun when you take these roles like plumber and then give it a little bit of importance and put someone who's a stellar performer, like I think both John C. McGinley and Mike Starr. And you really you got a full episode here. You got a real meaty, fun thing where all the characters feel like they're doing something, except for the women who are pursuing men
Yeah,
indirectly,
out chasing men.
out pursuing and chasing men.
Yeah. Uh, So yeah. We've got our next episode coming up. Frasier season 2, episode 12. Roz in the doghouse.
Roz
After
in the
Roz sustains an
doghouse.
Yeah, so after Roz sustains an injury, Frasier makes an offensive remark that prompts her to accept Bulldog's offer to be his producer.
Oh no! Oh
So
man!
we'll have to see how that plays out. So this has been the Frasier on Frasier podcast. I'm your host, Adam Frasier. With me has been Wes Corwin.
I'm Wes. Kids, stay safe out there. Don't make me turn this chair back around, because I will. I will absolutely. Hey, are we gonna talk real quick? I'm sorry. Are we gonna talk about the fact that Frasier has a toilet phone?
No. Let's just end it.
Okay.
Good night, everybody. Frasier on Frasier podcast wishes to thank KACL780.net for providing episode transcripts and Ronald O'Connell for providing our theme song, Frasier MIDI.